This is not just another courtroom setback. What we are seeing is the closing of a financial trap that has been tightening for decades. Donald Trump is not simply on the losing end of a legal dispute. He has been boxed in by a routine legal requirement that exposed a much deeper problem. It called his bluff. This is the moment when the carefully crafted Trump image collides with unforgiving financial reality. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. Now let's break down how an ordinary legal process turned a court loss into a full-scale financial crisis. The key mechanism is New York's standard appeal bond rule. When someone loses a civil case and wants to appeal, they cannot just file paperwork and walk away. The court requires a bond to protect the winning side. The idea is simple. During a long appeal, the losing party should not be able to hide, sell, or drain assets. The bond is not a punishment or an extra fine. It is a financial guarantee, usually arranged through a specialized surety company that covers the full judgment plus interest. If the appeal fails, the money is there to be collected. This rule exists to keep the system fair and functional. For Trump, the required bond was enormous, roughly $500 million. This is where legal theory ran straight into financial reality. According to reports, Trump's team approached more than 30 surety companies, firms whose entire business revolves around evaluating risk and collateral. Every one of them declined. None were willing to back a bond of that size using Trump's real estate holdings as security. That refusal is critical. These companies are not political players. They do not care about narratives or campaigns. They care about numbers, risk, and recoverability. Their collective rejection amounts to a market judgment. It suggests they either doubted the true value of Trump's properties, believed the risk of losing the appeal was too high, or both. In some ways, this verdict from the financial world is as damaging as the court ruling itself because it is completely detached from politics. There is a sharp irony at the center of this situation. The fraud case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James was based on claims that Trump routinely exaggerated the value of his assets to obtain better loan terms and insurance deals. The court agreed, finding a pattern of fraud. Now, when Trump needed those same assets to be accepted at high valuations to secure his appeal bond, the market refused. The logic is brutally circular. The court ruled that the values were inflated, and now the financial industry will not accept those inflated values to save him. The very assets he once promoted as proof of his wealth have lost credibility when he needed them most. This is why the appeal bond requirement became such a powerful reality check. In court, Trump's lawyers could argue bias, unfairness, and persecution. But inside the offices of surety companies, none of that mattered. Only balance sheets, asset values, and legal risk counted. The process stripped away the rhetoric and reduced everything to one hard question. Can you actually secure this amount with what you own? So far, the answer has been no. What began as a legal defeat has turned into an immediate and tangible financial squeeze. The courtroom response only intensified the situation. The judge's ruling allowing asset seizures was far from neutral or restrained. Judges typically write in calm, measured language, which is why the tone of this decision stood out so strongly. The judge did not merely deny Trump's request to stop enforcement. He dismantled it. He described the arguments as frivolous and legally unsupported. Most strikingly, he stated that Trump's claims were an insult to the integrity of the court. In judicial terms, that is extremely strong language. The ruling systematically rejected Trump's key defenses. On the claim of irreparable harm, the judge noted that any damage was self-inflicted. Trump had a clear way to prevent enforcement by posting the bond, and his failure to do so was his own responsibility. On due process, the judge emphasized that the bond requirement itself is due process, a long-established rule meant to balance the right to appeal with the right to collect on a judgment. Trump was not asking for fairness. He was asking for special treatment. The strongest language came in response to claims of political motivation. The judge directly confronted the argument, stating that Trump's habit of crying political persecution whenever he is held accountable had become tiresome and unworthy of the court. Suggesting that the entire New York legal system was involved in a conspiracy, the judge said, was unsupported by evidence and itself an attack on the institution of justice. The message was clear. This was a legal decision based on facts, not a political vendetta. This unusually blunt tone sends a broader signal. The court appears to view Trump's tactics as bad faith attempts to delay, distract, and undermine institutions rather than legitimate legal arguments. It draws a firm line against using the courtroom as a political stage. That stance could influence other courts handling Trump-related cases, encouraging judges to cut through political theater and address obstruction directly. At a deeper level, this moment represents a dramatic collision between image and reality. For decades, Trump's public identity rested on two core claims: immense wealth and deal-making genius. That image fueled books, television fame, and eventually political power. The message was simple and effective. I am rich, therefore I am smart and successful. My buildings are proof. Now, that image is confronting a dual verdict from two non-political forces, the courts and the market. Instead of celebrating deals, the discussion is about court-appointed receivers and enforcement actions. Signature properties like Trump Tower and 40 Wall Street are no longer symbols of triumph. They are being inventoried, appraised, and prepared for potential seizure. The dismantling is physical, not rhetorical. Perhaps the most damaging aspect is the market's silent agreement with the court. The judge ruled that Trump committed fraud by overstating asset values. Then the financial world was asked to rely on those same assets as collateral and refused. In effect, independent financial institutions signaled that they did not believe the numbers either. That strikes directly at the heart of the self-made billionaire narrative. It reframes the case from a political attack into a credibility collapse. This also marks the breakdown of Trump's long-standing legal strategy. For years, his approach was consistent: deny everything, delay relentlessly, and attack the system itself. The goal was not always to win, but to exhaust opponents until they settled or walked away. That strategy often worked against smaller adversaries with limited resources. This time it has failed. Emergency motions were denied. Appeals for stays were rejected. Claims of bias were dismissed as baseless. The case has moved from argument to enforcement. This is the stage where legal theory ends and physical consequences begin. Appeals can continue in parallel, but the machinery of collection is already in motion. Clerks, appraisers, and marshals follow procedures that do not stop for speeches or social media posts. The difference now is the opponent. Trump is no longer facing contractors or private litigants who can be worn down. He is facing the state, an entity with vast resources, institutional patience, and no incentive to settle for less than what the court ordered. The asset seizures demonstrate the final limit of delay tactics. Once enforcement begins, the consequences become immediate and difficult to reverse. Beyond Trump himself, this case tests a fundamental principle. Does the rule of law apply equally to everyone, even to a former president and current political candidate? So far, the process has been ordinary in the best sense: trial, judgment, bond requirement, enforcement. These are the same steps any defendant would face. The normality of the procedure, despite extraordinary political noise, is the real story. If political power could indefinitely block civil judgments, it would create a dangerous two-tier system of justice. It would tell the public that wealth and influence place someone above accountability. Instead, what we are seeing suggests the opposite. The system is functioning as designed. The political impact may be significant. Legal arguments can be debated endlessly, but images are harder to dismiss. The sight of officials enforcing judgments against a self-proclaimed billionaire turns an abstract narrative into a concrete reality. For many observers, it shifts the question from "is he being targeted?" to "how did it come to this?" In the end, this unfolding situation shows that legal accountability follows its own timeline. Judges' rulings, enforcement actions, and market decisions are moving independently of political campaigns. Asset by asset, the system is being tested under enormous pressure, and so far, it is holding. This is an unprecedented moment with major legal, financial, and political consequences. We will continue to track every development as it unfolds. Thank you for watching, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.